Welcome everybody, Heroic Scale Gamers back again. This is Jamie and Nathan. From buying your first box of minis and paint to being a competent player at the gaming table, we got you covered. We thought we'd bring you a different kind of video this week. We're going to talk about our experience at the LSO tournament in Dallas. It was put on by Frontline Gaming. It was a 2-day event, kind of a homage to the troops. They had a lot of service members who were there representing all different branches of service, and they had a lot of special activities and some special thank yous to all the men and women who serve us and give us the opportunity to do great things like play with our toy soldiers.
With that, I will change it. It's not just a video. This is going to be live. So if you do hop on here in a minute, or you come back and watch it, definitely will say this again. Instead of all the opponents that had an armband on their arm, thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I can never say thank you enough for this, the freedoms to be able to do some of the things that we're doing and be able to pick and choose the things we go.
Yep.
I did like it, 2-day event.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Great time.
We actually did this was the first time I've done it different. I rode together, but we rode with 3 people. We shared a room with 3. It was a little different. Had a lot of the team there this time.
Yep.
I think 4 of us were there.
Yeah, 4 of us were there.
So all did really good with that. Had a blast with it. We all actually, I think 5-1, 4-2, 4-2, 3-3. I mean, that's 50% better. So that's amazing from a team standpoint. Very well ran. I love that hall. The only downside is I did dress up day 1. So if you go back, see any pictures or anything, I did dress up day 1.
Yep.
But I did not stay dressed up because after round 1, all the skinny minis in there thought it was too cold, so they cranked the AC up, not turn the heat on, but set the AC higher. So therefore, the abundance of perspiration was going to be true if I stayed in the uniform all day. So took and changed it out. Let's see. You had some pictures with the flags. We did some pictures with each one of the branches with the flags in the front. You had Joe that was there doing War Games Live streaming. You had Rex's Lasers, which is one of our sponsors. Greatly appreciate them being there. Had a lot of stuff for sale, which was really cool. They had food and alcohol and drinks and so forth in the venue, so you didn't have to run far. Time-wise, it was pretty good. Yeah. They stayed pretty close to being on time.
Yeah, I think we had one small delay on day 2 of about 15 minutes, and then they got us worked around. It was very well run from start to finish. The guys at Frontline Gaming do a really good job putting on a great event. I was really happy to have been able to be there for this one, because I've actually gone to several of their prior events, LVO, Cherokee Open. I was at the New Orleans Open last year. They put on a pretty good show. This one was extra special because of all the stuff they did for all of the veterans and all the troops that were there.
Even the awards at the end.
Yeah,
so
it was really nice.
Most of the time when you go, they have your best general and your best overall, and those factions are your big winning factions. But this year they did, they gave an award to each branch that had the best performance. So out of your branches, whoever was the best in that branch got an award. And then they composited, because FLG has behind the scenes their numbers for ITC crunching and paint hobby track. They used that same algorithm based on wins and losses between the branches to find out who won, who was the best branch that was there. And so it was interesting because your best overall general, they got the trophy, which is a nice trophy, but the branch that won, I mean, that thing, there was a massive, if you were there, you got to see it. So it was really cool, the amount of effort they put into supporting the military and supporting the branches. So I really, really did enjoy it.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was very exciting to watch the camaraderie amongst the different service members. Everyone was it was really, really great to see. And, if you didn't get a chance to see it, the Marines took home the top prize. They had the best scores overall. So the winner of the branch trophy this year was the Marines, which was really exciting to see. They took a picture with all the guys that showed up. It was just really nice to see. It was really cool. I enjoyed it a lot.
So before we get too far into it, what we decided we'd do is we've got the armies, kind of laid them out on the table. We'll do some changes. We're going to start with Jamie.
Yep.
He's going to kind of run through the army, through the matches, through the people he did. If anybody who hops in has a question, wants to ask while we're doing it, since this is live, we'll answer those. We'll do that from that aspect. Otherwise, we'll just kind of keep rolling. But when you do get to round 3 and you finish, I do want to mention something.
Sure.
So when we get there, let me know so I can bring that up.
Yeah.
But with that, what I'll do is I'll flip the camera here. We should have it set up so you can actually see Yep, there it is.
There it
And
is.
I'll let Jamey kind of go over what he did.
All that beautiful model footage there. Well, so this is a brand new army for me. Actually, my first game at the tournament was the 4th time I'd played the army. So we had been tinkering with some ideas, and we kind of came up with this build. It really centers around 2 different parts of the army. One, we built it for speed. So the Venoms...
Hold on. What do you call the army first?
What do I
You
call
didn't
the
tell
army?
me, you just let them see it. It's dark Eldar.
Oh, it's Dark Eldar. Yeah, sorry, it's Drukhari. Yeah. Well, I thought that was obvious. So yeah, no, that's a good point. Yes. So this is the Drukhari force that we put together. It was built around 2 things. Speed, number 1. Most of the units in this army can move anywhere from 16 to 28 inches in a turn, which gave me phenomenal board coverage. And then it's surprisingly deceptive. There were 11 blasters, which are like melt-a-guns almost, inside the army. And when you can move up to 28 inches and still have an 18-inch range with those weapons, pretty much gives you a lot of coverage along the board on what you can reach out and touch. But there was a lot of trial and error. With the new Nephilim pack and all the new missions and all the new secondaries, and having only played the army 3 times before coming, mistakes were made. So day 1 was interesting, and it's funny because my tournament was really a story of 2 completely separate days. So the first mission we played was Recover the Relics. I played Josh and his Death Guard. It was a very, very interesting mission. I took behind enemy lines, which was going to accentuate the fact that I was just so quick and could get around the table fast to get units into his deployment zone to score points. I took banners because, once again, I was so fast. I was able to get on objectives quickly, get those banners up, and then use my speed and my movement to keep him away from those banners for as long as possible to score as many points as I could. And then I played Death Guard.
Oh, it was Death Guard.
Yeah, it was Death Guard. So, he's a little bit slower, which also worked to my advantage. And then I took Take Them Alive, which is a Drukhari secondary out of the Nephilim book, where basically I score victory points for characters and monsters that I kill in close combat. I get 3 points. And then anything else I kill in close combat, I score a point. And the second part of the army, which I had forgotten about, was the actual Incubi and Drazar. The close combat punch that this army provided was insane. So many attacks, very good AP, and really good damage once you combine their special abilities. On 6s to wound, they're basically 3 damage weapons, and Drazar becomes a 4 damage weapon, and they have a multitude of attacks. It's like 3 attacks apiece. It's just insane at the number of attacks that a 5-man unit can throw out. But it was really interesting. I was able to be very, very consistent. I scored 39 on my primary, so 39 out of 45 points was pretty good. And in my secondaries, I ended up with 37. So when that was all said and done, I scored 86 points with my paint. The speed aspect was great for me because I was actually able to keep Josh, my opponent, to just 25 points on his primary, and he only scored 12 points on his secondaries. And a lot of that had to do with just the fact that I had so much board coverage in the first 2 or 3 turns that by the time he was able to get something up close to the middle of the board, it was just too late. But, he's a great opponent. We had a really good time. It was a wonderful game. Ending score was 86-47. So it was a good win. It was a good start to the day. Game 2, on the other hand, was Tide of Conviction, which is a hold 2, hold 3 mission. I tend to play these a little bit poorly. It's just a problem that I have within the mission standings. And this was actually particularly difficult because I was playing against Eldar, and he was playing Halidum. And he was a very good player. His name was Da. Wonderful guy. We had a really great game. But he pretty much put a hurting on me in turns 4 and 5 and was able to step away. I was only able to score 24 points on the primary, 30 points on the secondary. So with paint gave me a total of 64. I did a very good job keeping him to 22 points on the primary, but he scored 39 points on the secondary. So in the end was able to pull out a 7-point victory. I just lost too much too early, and I think part of that was because I was over aggressive. I took behind enemy lines. I took R&D, which was okay. I mean, I got 8 points out of it. I could have gotten 12 points, but it was going to be very difficult to do, and I probably knew that going in. And then once again, I took Take Them Alive, which I actually scored 12 points on. That was a very good one for me for most of the tournament. I was really happy with that, but he did keep me to 0 points on primary in turns 3 and 4, and that was probably the difference of the game. If I could have squeezed just a few points out, in each of those turns, I'd probably win the game by 1. But, it is what it is. So we're 1 and 2 after 2 rounds. In the third round...
Before we get to the third,
Oh,
I got
sure.
a question.
Yes.
So, in round 1...
Yes.
And that, again, we're a week out now doing this, so I know we're jogging memories.
Yeah.
And even though it looks like it, I may look older than Jamey. It's white on my beard. But I think he's gotten about a few years. So
Yeah,
I
just
know
a
if
few.
my brain cells are missing, sometimes he may have some missing.
Yeah.
But in round 1, out of all the units and talking about how we built the army around the speed and
Yeah.
the hill and so forth, what did you like in round 1 as far as units in the army that you go, you know what, they did excel great in this match?
So it's really funny because no one would think this, but in almost every single game I played, the best units on the board, hands down every time, were the Reaver Jet Bikes. They are so fast. They scored a majority of my behind enemy line points in every game I took that secondary, simply because I could get their first turn. And it's one of those things where you don't really want to use up a lot of assets to get rid of 3 models, but if you don't, all I'm going to do is score points. So I kind of forced my opponent into having to waste valuable assets to get rid of those 3 or 6 models at a time, while the rest of my army's moving forward unmolested. They were fantastic.
So
Just
is that
absolutely
around
fantastic.
game 2 the same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Oh.
Like those 2 games in particular, those 9 models were phenomenal. The Incubi and Drazar did tons of work, but consistently scoring points. Those Reavers just scored points in every single game.
So at the end of the day, you could drop Drazar and the Incubi, but the bikes have to stay.
No.
can't
It doesn't
go
work
without
yet. It doesn't work without both. But the bikes actually were very vital to what I was trying to accomplish. And that's where the third game comes into play, because I made the single biggest mistake that you should never make in a tournament setting, and that is to change your plan in the middle of action.
Oh, no.
So I had great success in game 1. I fell a little short in game 2, and then I came up against Robert and his guard in game 3, and we were playing conversion, which is another hold 1, hold 2. And I was enticed by the fact that he had 21 points possible in Bring It Down, which meant I didn't have to kill every single vehicle, but if I killed like 2/3 of them, I was going to score some points. So I went with Bring It Down. I then went with Herd the Prey, because in that mission you start in a table quarter, and if I had the opportunity to go first, because he was mostly mechanized, I could then use those bikes to block him in and score Herd the Prey points very, very quickly. And then I took R&D again. Well, mistake number 1, didn't go first. Mistake number 2, only killed 2 vehicles. I'm sorry, 3 vehicles. 2 Sentinels and a Chimera.
Uh-oh.
So I only scored 4 points there. I only scored 4 points in Herd the Prey, and I only scored 4 points in R&D.
That's rough.
But I scored 45 points on the primary. So with my paint score, I ended with 66. I actually played very, very well. Had I not taken Herd,
Stayed with your normal.
had I not taken Herd and I had kept behind enemy lines, I probably win this game big. But because I made that mistake, it pretty much nipped me in the bud. Now, Robert played a wonderful, wonderful game. He is a fantastic opponent. He's one of my favorite players to play against. And honestly, he played smart, because I kept him to 24 points on the primary. He never scored more than 4 points from holding an objective, and he only got the bonus in 4 of the 5 turns, because by the 5th turn, he physically couldn't get to any of the objectives to score those points.
Oh, wow.
But he had 2 really, really good guard-specific secondaries. One was called Boots on the Ground, and I'm gonna look that one up for you because I'm not 100% familiar with them, but they were very, very cool.
Well, while you're looking at those,
Yeah, here it is, Boots on the Ground. So,
hold on a second.
yep,
While you're looking at, welcome anybody that's joined. If
Yeah.
you have any questions, we are doing a review on the Lone Star Open.
yep.
That we went to. Basically, we started out with Jamey and his Dark Eldar, and then we'll finish up with what it took with the Quinn. So,
Yep.
thanks for everybody that's joined. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of ramble on.
Yep. So Boots on the Ground is a very good one. So he scores a victory point for each table quarter that has one or more infantry regiment wholly within it. And then he scores one victory point if one or more units from his army equipped with a regimental standard are wholly within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. And he had 2 units that had regimental standards. So in his first turn, he went straight for the center with one of those units, and then he got infantry units into 3 of the table quarters. And so in that secondary, he was able to score 12 points. He then took another one called let's make sure I got this right, by Lasgun and Bayonet. And he scored 1 victory point each time that unit started the turn within range of an objective marker destroyed by an Astra Militarum unit. So what he would do is when I jumped on an objective, he would then kill me off it, and all he had to do was have a unit close by, and he scored a victory point. And when it was all said and done, he actually ended up with 13 points out of that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a pretty big swing. And then the last one he took was in Flexible Command, I believe. And this one, once again, out of the Nephilim book for Astra Militarum, you score 2 victory points for every infantry unit that's within 6 inches of a friendly officer. You score 1 point for every vehicle that's within 12 inches of a vehicle officer, and then you score 1 victory point if any enemy unit was destroyed by an Astra Militarum unit from your army this turn while being affected by an order. So when he gives an order like,
move,
move, yeah, get in the fight, first rank fire, second rank fire, when they kill something, he scored additional points. And so in the end, he had 24 points on the primary, 45 points on the secondary, giving him a total of 79, which was a 13-point loss. So it was bittersweet. Mistakes were made, but 1 and 2 was not the worst I thought I'd end up with, considering these were games 4, 5, and 6 playing the Army. And I was very close in the second game, and the only reason that I ended up being 13 points down in the third game was literally because Robert was able to jump a little too far ahead, and I just couldn't catch up.
Grant says that the Guard have some interesting secondary.
They do. They have a very good secondary game. And once again, Robert is a very, very good player. He understands his army very, very well, and he played it exceptionally well. He knew that with my speed, I was going to be able to deny him a lot of primary points. So he knew he was going to have to make it up in the secondary game, which is exactly what he did. And he also had 2 really awesome planes. I wish I remembered the names of them. They were super cool, and they did some pretty good work for him. Just being able to get around the board and get shots at things that he couldn't see with other stuff. It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
So that's day 1.
Yeah, that's day 1. So day 1, finished 1 and 2. I was a little dejected, if I'm honest. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was definitely a little dejected. I was hoping that it would be a 2-in-1 day, but I didn't feel like I played poorly, except for the third game. And it's not that I played poorly; I just picked poorly.
So we're going to go into that. So dejected that I think on the ride to dinner that night, his wife told him to cheer up. Or think positive.
Yeah, think positively, and I believe my exact words were, yes, I'm positive I'm going to go 0-3 tomorrow.
So he was very upset. We all went to Pluckers.
Yep. Had chicken wings and beer, and
apparently
my mood changed about midway through the meal. And
yeah.
it was funny. I had actually said to the guy, I said, you know what? I've been complaining so much, I bet I go 3-0 tomorrow. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I have a feeling. Well,
let's see how it turned out.
Let's see how it turned out. So, game 4 was tear down their relics. This was a hold 1, hold 2. And I don't know if you guys haven't played this mission. This is the one where you had to set up bombs. So anywhere in your opponent's table half, you could take a unit and drop a bomb. And if it was an objective secured unit, it would end at the end of your turn. If not, it ended at the start of your next command phase. And it stayed there on the board until the end of the game, or until your opponent came over and defused a bomb. And that's just another action that they could do. And normally I play a lot of armies that are already doing multiple actions, so trying to do a third action or even a fourth action on top of that in a turn gets lost in the ether for me. But with this army, it's almost like this army is very well designed for this mission. So in this one, I was playing against Blood Angels, and it was all jump pack guys. So all Sanguinary Guard, all Death Company, all characters with jump packs. Like, this guy was almost as fast as I was in covering the board. And funny enough, this was another game in which I did not go first. I actually only went first in one game in the entire tournament. So out of 6 rounds, I got a single go first, which was absolutely hilarious. You'd think it'd be 50-50, but not always. Not always. So I took no prisoners because he had a ton of infantry models, all 2 wounds apiece. So there were lots of points to be had. And he was going to be coming at me, so I wasn't going to have to worry about him hiding anything. I took Take Them Alive again, which was another one that had been done very, very well for me. And then I took Engage because of the deployment. I was going to be able to get Engage in 3 table quarters right from turn 1, no matter going first or second. So I found that those were the 3 I was going to take. My opponent took Bring It Down, where he's going to try and kill more units than I did. He took Shock Tactics, which is a Space Marine 1 specific, and they took Fury of the Lost, which is a Blood Angel specific one. Once again, my speed was phenomenal. I was able to get out onto the board very, very quickly. And to be honest, I ran away from the Sanguinary Guard for a majority of the game because those guys are scary. My guys are very, very thin, very paper thin, not a lot of invul saves. So if he's going to reach out and touch me, he's going to pick up whatever he touches. So I just wanted to stay away. And I went after every single Death Company model I could get my hands on. And then when I could isolate his other assets, I just took him down. So I ended up scoring 45 on the primary. I ended up scoring 27 on secondary. I got 9 points for no prisoners. I got 10 for Take 'Em Alive, and I got 8 for Engage. So with Paint gave me a total score of 82. And Jesse scored 40 points on primary, 27 on secondary, 10 on Paint, for a total of 77. So the big difference there was the primary game. I put out 5 bombs, 1 in every single turn, and he never got over to dislodge any of them. Wow. And he was only able to put down a single bomb. And that was the difference in the game, because we were dead even all the way down the rest of the way. I just was a little more active in that phase, and I was constantly making sure that I was scoring primary points, because I knew that's where I was going to make up the difference. So we started off 1-0 on day 2. And that put us at even on the tournament at 2-2, which was a pretty good start. And honestly, in that game, the MVPs were Drazar and the Incubi.
So it switched after day 1.
Yeah.
So day 1 it was the bikes.
Day 1 it was definitely the bikes. In day 2, the Incubi and Drazar did work in every game. And I mean work. They beat down Death Company. They beat down Intercessors. They beat down Incursors. They beat down 2 units of Sanguinary Guard. I killed 2 characters with the Incubi and Drazar. Like, they crushed everything they touched. And now at the end of that game, all I had left on the board was a Raider, 2 Incubi, and Drazar. That was it. Oh, and 1 jet bike. I had 1 jet bike. And that 1 jet bike guaranteed me 12 points on primary, because it was able to jet across the board and contest a objective that he had a single character on, which gave me hold more.
There you go.
And that right there is what pulled out the victory in the end. So it's very interesting. Like I said, if you had walked by that table at any point and looked at the board, I looked like I was getting crushed, like absolutely manhandled. But I played to the strengths of the army. I kept it simple, and we had a good day. So now we're 2-0 on day 2. We're up to 3-2. You know, it's looking like we may actually have a chance. Oh, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're 2-2. I think I've given away what happened in Game 5. In Game 5, I played Chaos Knights. Kevin, who was a really cool guy. I have only played the new Chaos Knights once prior to this. And there are so many new things, so many new rules, so many additional things that they can do, buffs and all this stuff. It's just too much to try to remember. And Kevin walked me through it every step of the way. And I told him, I said, hey, listen, anytime something's going to happen, just explain it to me as it goes, because I'm not going to remember it if we talk about it at the beginning. And
That's fair.
yeah, and it was like he made sure that, you know, if I had any questions, that we could take a moment to discuss it, just so I would understand what was going on. Like I said, wonderful player, really knew his rules, was a great guy, and we had a fun game. But I was able to pull it off. So once again, stay with behind enemy lines, which, as we know, is now a theme. I only scored 8 points with it in this game, but part of that was because I was playing knights, and I had to hide quite a bit, actually. It was tough. It was very, very tough. But honestly, if I had to call for a MVP, it was Cable Light Warriors.
I was going to ask you. So up until this point,
Yeah.
so going into, I think, 3 games playing,
Yep.
before we went to Lone Star. We show up at Lone Star. He goes to 1-2 for the first day.
Yep.
One of his biggest complaints, and he had picked it up, like when we looked at it, we're like, there's a lot of shooting, but he was like, man, we figured out was, how many blasters you got?
11. There's 11
in this one.
blasters.
And he's like, they don't do a dang thing. He was just irritated as all get out. And then on this game,
Yeah, it was funny because I get a free reroll with every single one of those Cable Light Warrior units because I was running Cabal the Black Heart. So I was hitting like you wouldn't believe. But I could not tell you the number of times where it came to do a wound and I'd roll a 1 or a 2. And, you know, command points are super valuable right now because you don't have a lot of them, and you just can't, I just don't have them available to just spend on rerolls there. And when I would get a wound through on a D6 weapon, to watch you roll a 1 or a 2 is just gut punch. It's just gut punch time. I think in the first 3 games, I think I did something like 12 total wounds with blaster shots out of, you know, 15 rounds. Yeah, 15 rounds of shooting with 11 blasters, and you only can do 12 wounds total. Like, that's just, the math doesn't add up. But it happens sometimes, and when that happens, you have to be able to pivot. And that's where I had some difficulty in day one, is I had put some eggs into a basket I wasn't prepared to pivot off of, and it cost me 2 games, if I'm honest. But this was a perfect example. He had 2 big knights, and he had 3 little knights. No, he had 3 big knights and 3 little knights. I killed 1 big knight and all the little knights. So at the end of the game, he had just 2 big knights left. I only had 10 Cable Light Warriors, 2 Venoms, and Drazar left at the end of the game. But I won 77-67 because, once again, 45 points on the primary, and this is where the Cable Light Warriors were invaluable. So, everyone knows, Little Knights, OBSEC, count as 5 models.
True.
Big Knights count as 10 models, but are not objective secured. So, I kept him to either 4 or 0 on the primary in 2 straight turns, because a single Cable Light Warrior was able to jump up on an objective that he was touching with only a big knight. So those points were just invaluable. So a 50-point squad standing on an objective with a single model kept him to 20 points on the primary, and that was really the difference. Because in secondary, he outscored me 37-22. But, you know, with a 25-point difference on primary, that gave me a 10-point victory. It was a really good game. And like I said, Kevin was a wonderful opponent, really knew his stuff, really knew his rules, was really, really helpful, which was great. Because like I said, there was just a lot of information to try to intake against an army I just wasn't very familiar with.
Oh, yeah, Knights have got a lot.
Yeah. But he was, like I said, absolutely great guy. So now we're 3-2. So at this point, 3-3 is the worst I can finish. I mean, considering I've only played, 8 games with him at that point, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that, right?
As we continue along with the lie,
Yep.
Because I want to thank everybody that hops in
Yeah.
and does watch. Thank you for hopping in. If
Yep.
you have questions as we go over it, let us know. Jamie's going into, I think it's 6th game now.
Yeah, 6th game.
Of the Army. We're just kind of spitballing, having a good time today. So anybody that's hopped on to watch, greatly appreciate you jumping in.
Yep.
If you got comments, throw them in. I'll walk around and read. My eyes don't work from this distance because we do not have all the professional equipment we need to run a true studio. But hey,
We're getting there.
We're trying to make it work.
We're getting there.
So going into 6.
All right, so game 6, we're playing conversion, and we're playing Tau. And Matt, younger gentleman, another really great opponent. Had a very, very nice looking Tau army. It was everything you would expect it to be. He had crew, he had battle suits, he had some broadsides. He was running long strike and 2 hammerheads. He had Shadow Sun. Like it was a really well designed army. And I got to be honest, I was a little intimidated because there was a lot of shots on that board that if he could bring them to bear properly would just open me up like a can.
Why do you know this? How many times have we played Tau?
Well,
you played your own
I
Tau?
don't know if you guys know this, but Nathan here has played Tau. And at one point in time, I think he played 87 games and lost 3. Something along those lines.
With a lot of Tau.
Yeah, so it's a lot of Tau.
Well, they were OP.
I took
has nightmares from
yeah,
those games.
I took a lot of Tau beatings. A lot of Tau beatings. But yeah, like I said, it was really interesting. This is a game I went first in.
Morning. Oh my gosh! I want to say Rex's Lasers, but it's really Joey.
Oh no, this is not the game I went first in. That's right. Matt actually went first in this game. So what I did was I hid.
You hid?
I hid very, very well. And actually, when it was all said and done, he only could see my Raider from one angle, and he was only able to get a couple shots off at it. And he wasn't able to kill it, which was great, because inside that Raider is Drazar and 2 units of Incubi. And if they die on my side of the board, that becomes a problem. So in this one, I took no prisoners because he had a ton of wounds.
Price suits.
Yep, crisis suits, the Crute, just so many wounds. And then I took behind enemy lines yet again, which once again was a fantastic choice. And then I took assassinate because he had 10 points is what he could, or actually he could give up 13 points.
Yes, Joey, you are one and the same. I apologize for not getting that correct. He said I am one and the same.
That's true.
Lasers and
And then he took the Tau one that you always take.
Which one? So there's 3. It's either the relays where you
Nope.
have to do the 4 corners.
It's
It's the kill one where you
Nope,
have to kill
it's
3.
the other one.
Oh, it's old school stranglehold.
Yes, that's it.
Monka or Kayan.
Yep.
First 3 turns, it's Monka. You
Yep.
score 4 points if you hold 3. If it's Kayan, you score 4 points if you hold 3. At the
Yep.
end, you don't have to hold more. It's just 3.
Yep.
The interesting, it does cap at 12 because it's 4 for 3 rounds.
Yeah. And he took
So it's
Kayan, so he was doing it in the second half of the game, which I think in the end was a mistake. But you don't know that going first.
No,
Well, no,
you
he
never.
does, right? You make that decision after the dice
After
roll.
who goes
Yeah,
first?
so he actually knew, and I think in the end, if he had gone Monka, I think he would have actually scored more. He took Assassinate because I gave up 10 points there, and he took Bring It Down because I give up, I think it's like 16 points there when it's all said and done.
No,
Or
it's just 9.
Oh,
11.
sorry, 11. There's 11. The problem is that no prisoners is actually bad because I don't have a ton of wounds. I think it was like 7 points. Although my stuff is very easy to kill for him, you know, he had to get the points where he could get them. So he went first, didn't do a whole lot of damage, and then I had probably the best first turn out of all 6 games I'd ever had. So I advanced. I got the Reavers to move up and charge Long Strike. I also did some shots at Long Strike. So at the end of turn 1, Long Strike had 2 wounds.
Nice.
So he's got 2 wounds, and he's pinned against the board. So, and unfortunately, because he was degraded to the lowest tier, he couldn't move far enough to actually get out of that combat because his movement value was too low. And so, in the way he was
'cause he got down to
positioned,
4.
yeah, and the way he was positioned, his 4 inches couldn't actually take him out of engagement range. He couldn't go over me here, and he couldn't get far enough away from me on this other side. So basically, he was stuck in that combat. So Long Strike was only shooting at 3 Reavers, and I was all right with that. And then the second hammerhead, I actually destroyed between all the blaster shots and charging it with 3 venoms.
There you go.
I did the final wound with venom attacks in close combat. Don't ask. It was impressive.
Way to do it.
And this was another one where my speed really worked to my benefit. From a primary standpoint, I scored 43 out of 45 points. I was on a majority of the objectives for most of the game. Because he went first, I was only able to score 4 points on primaries in the first turn, but that was because I was trying to go after key assets that he had given me the opportunity to get, and I kind of forewent just going and standing on some objectives. And this is the one too, whereas if you got to the middle objective, you scored 2 points for taking the objective, or you would score 2 points for killing something off of the objective. So because I went second, I chose not to go after that, because I was just going to give up 2 points when he shot me off it. So I just left it empty. Because when he moved, he fell just short, even with a reroll, to get on and take it.
Ah. So you didn't need the 2.
No.
Because he didn't get the 2. It's
Exactly.
Like, you know what? We'll just...
So, and then when it was all said and done at the end of the game, I still held it. So I scored 5 points on that at the end. I ended up getting 13 points in no prisoners, 14 points in behind enemy lines, and 10 points for assassinate. The only thing he had left on the board at the end of the game was his crisis commander, his Fold Star.
Oh, wow.
That was it.
That's
I
good.
killed everything else. And once again, Drazar and the Incubi were amazing. So they killed 2 broadsides, 12 crisis suits, Shadow Sun. They killed his ethereal and 10 crew
Oh, wow.
by the end of the game. Yes. Absolutely
Freaking
phenomenal. Like, just absolutely
That
phenomenal.
is awesome.
So when it was all said and done, I had 43 on the primary, 37 on the secondary for a total of 90. And Matt was only able to grab 24 on the primary, 28 on the secondary for a total of 62. So apparently I am Nostradamus. I had predicted it the night before, and I did actually pull off a 3-0 day 2 to finish at 4-2, which is way above my expectation. Having only played the Army a very few times prior to the event, and going in not really with a plan, which I would never suggest, but figuring out a plan as I went, I was able to have quite a bit of success. And like I said, I played 6 great opponents with 6 wonderful armies, had a great experience, not a single issue. And like I said, FLG puts on some really, really fantastic events, and I was really, really happy to have been there for this one.
So for all you Dark Eldar players out there, I played them all last year. I continue to play them all last year. Had an amazing time. I have now convinced Jamey, after snorting this crack cocaine of speed, that it's fun to do.
Yeah, it really is. Like, and we've been tinkering around and looking at other stuff, and actually I've come up with one that I think is even better.
Do is I'm going to flip it to this.
Yep.
I'll let you take and actually talk through those changes when I go make a few
Yeah,
changes.
so
Before we
that's...
get to it, though,
Yep.
I do want to mention this because we can actually see it. I don't know if he's going to continue to do them, but one of the things is when I go through my list, I won't be as detailed as Jamey because I'm literally pulling it from my brain, but Rex's Lasers had these books, and I wish I'd have gotten one now because I can see the benefit for this.
Yep.
And so I'm really going to be shortchanging. I'll give pretty good detail.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good memory. But it was really cool because Jamey was able to use this book to be able to detail that. So now, go through with what they're looking at.
Yeah, so one of the nice things of going to an event like this is that you can then come back after the fact and look at what worked and what didn't. Honestly, everything worked. The blasters were a little underwhelming, but not because they were bad. I didn't have some good luck. I had a couple games where I would hit with all 11 of them and then maybe wound with 2 of them. Or I would get a few wounds through and they'd make an invulnerable save. Like, there are things that you have no control over. And I just seem to run into them a lot. But when they did work, they did some really good stuff. It was very impressive. But the one thing that was consistent in every single game was the Incubi and Drazar. So we're actually looking at bringing, instead of 3 5-man units in Drazar, we're going to do 2 10-man units of Incubi and Drazar. We're going to run them in 2 raiders, which gives me another Dark Lance. I'm putting in a 3rd raider with a Dark Lance that'll hold 2 Cable Light Warrior units with blasters. So I will have 2 blasters and a Dark Lance firing out of that one. I'll have 2 Dark Lances coming from the Incubi and Drazar, and then I will still have Venoms, which will have blasters in it as well. I do lose 2 of the bike units, which I know I said were invaluable, and they were, but I still think I can get the behind enemy lines using Venoms. I can still get it by being a little bit cagier with my movement. And I still have 1 unit in there with a blaster that can speed up the table and take a quick pock shot if necessary. So, and we're putting some witches back in. So we're going to have 3 5-man witch units and a succubus to help me get across the board, touch things, and try and hold them into combat to keep less rebuttal coming back at me.
Nope.
So
Fair.
we're going to give it a shot. You know,
That's fair.
It'll be very interesting. I'm not sure how it'll work, but we're going to play it through, and hopefully the key thing is that it is fast. The whole army's fast. Everything moves quickly. Everything covers the board fast. I can jump from terrain piece to terrain piece if I need to hide something. I can get from this objective to that objective. It's definitely a different way of playing. Having played mostly Space Marines for a majority of my gaming career, the speed is phenomenal.
I've got him growing elf ears.
Yeah.
Elf ears.
It's phenomenal.
I'm excited. To anybody watching, you can see in the chat, so Russian Blazers, they're working on, they sold out apparently the battle books for the episode, so he's working on the remakes.
Another print.
Good print, so those will be coming out. So once he lets me know, we'll actually let that know on the channel as well. As always, you can click the link from the website to go to his site if you can't find his. Greatly appreciate all the work that he does for us from that standpoint.
Yes.
So cool. So with mine's going to be a little different. I may not be as detailed as Jamey because I won't remember all the actual scores, but I can take and walk you through it. One of the cool things, so I'm going to take it and we'll flip it here. The coolest thing is, one, I've always wanted the army. So when I started playing 40K and 8, it was Death Guard and Harlequins.
Yeah.
I bought a box of troops and I bought a box of, I got 6 and 7. Got them both out. Played the Death Guard because it was a little more tanky, and then all of a sudden, me and my buddy Steven, who was on the team, we decided to get a box of 8 to split it because, hey, that's what you do when you're getting started and you want to grow to 2,000 points. And so the next thing you know is I've moved up and we've got Death Guard, and so that becomes the army all. Even though Quinn's in the back, and it's funny, actually, I realized this here recently talking with a bunch of different people. Most people that have Death Guard want Quinn's.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. It's almost crazy how insane that is. I'm like, oh, you played Death? Oh, I want my Quinn's. I'm like, what? You're ready to quit? It's like, okay, all right. So got to the army I want. One of 2 ways. So one, me and Jamey got together and I said, hey, we need a project for the company, for the gamers, and so we got the army. We got off somebody here locally. It was painted metallic silver, covered in speckle paint. And you can actually go, so I just always mention it, but you can go, we've got a series of how we stripped it down, broke it down, and Jamey repainted it up to this. And I'm going to do an armor review on it. I won't do it now, and that'll be coming out. I'm making some changes, and we'll talk about it at the end. So I had fun with them. So one, taking Quinn's. So unlike Dark Eldar from last year, where Dark Eldar, I could just throw away units and do this, I don't have almost half the amount of units in the Quinn's army. And so I went from playing, this is easy mode, I can kind of chunk, to all of a sudden, I can't lose a unit. Because I remember the first time I practiced with it, so I'd had 3 games going into LSO. I lost 2 units of bikes, and I'm like, that's 200 points. This hurts. So I can't just willy-nilly. So kind of nervous going into it. At the end of the day, it's really going to be about taking and putting the army on the table and figure out what I can do. And again, it's more of a business aspect because when anybody sees it, I can give them a card. Hey, you can go watch how we painted it. So really did that. What we got over there in the chat?
Well, Joey said he does remember the what the Harlequins looked like beforehand, and he was not very impressed with the painting.
Oh, with the new painting?
No, with the old painting.
Oh, with the old painting.
With the
okay.
old painting.
Just dousing the new painting.
And Grant was just talking about the battle book and how helpful and handy it is.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna have to, like I said, for these reviews, because I know when we go to the big events, this is something me and Jamie's talked about being able to do. Is whatever army we take, come back. No matter if we go 0-6,
Yeah.
0-9, if it's a whatever,
the big one.
We want to be able to take and bring to the table some of the things that we saw and see and what we ran into. So for LSO, the way it started out, got up that morning, got ready. Of course, I dressed up, wore it for first game. I don't know if that helped me or hurt me, but it was interesting. So my first game, I got Joseph. He was one of the Army esports guys.
Yep.
He had Tau. Let's recover the relics. Interesting thing is when I saw he had Tau, the first question I looked at, and people were going to say, "Oh, what tanks? You got this." He had the tank commander. He had the tank Tau. Oh my gosh. Long strike.
Yep.
He had all the crisis units, and of course I looked at him and I said, "How many marker drums you got?" And he just looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm going, "That's all I care about because that's your only pluses, and I'm pretty much going to have you hitting on minuses, which means you're on fives." And me playing Tau for as long as I did, fives and Tau do not mix. I don't care what it is. So I know we can ignore some modifiers because he had a crisis commander and he had some of those different things. So we started out. So for fun fact for the weekend, I went first one time all weekend long.
Me too.
I'm actually okay with it because I actually like going second now, even though it feels painful. Out of the terrain sets at LSO, one of the interesting things is you had a bunch of different layouts. They had some, which I got on the very last game, and I'll talk about it. But on all the others, I stayed on pretty much. So instead of having this big piece of terrain to be able to hide behind, I was having the small boxes.
Yep.
And small boxes. And I had a few others. So I really had to think about where I was putting stuff because I wasn't able just to hide. Like there was some of these cathedral ones where, I mean, it was like a 14-foot. And I was like, can I just get a table like that so I can hide my army?
And just in case anyone was wondering, it was player-placed terrain. So you
Yes.
actually split the terrain with you and your opponent, and then each one of you would take turns setting a piece down. And there are rules based on how close they can be in proximity to each other. So it gave you a real advantage from a setup standpoint where you could set up good places to hide for your army pre-game that you could be thinking about before you actually started deploying so that you could not get just shot off the board in turn one.
Right. And since I have less the amount of units than I used to the Dark Eldar, it's easier to hide them as long as I have a decent sized piece of terrain. So like even GW terrain, which is what we use, of course, Joey helps us cut.
Yep.
And gets that for us. With that terrain, I can hide the army because it's big enough. But when you get player placed, it's kind of tricky. You have to think about the four. So I actually, in a lot of my games, what I did, because I didn't have these big, massive pieces, I would pre-think and pre-set for what I wanted. One, to have a shooting lane. I wanted, whatever that is, this is what I'm going to shoot at, this is where I'm going to deal. And then everything else got put in layers. So I would say, I'd put one here, and my hand, it would be like this, but so you can see it. So one would be like this. The next would be 4 inches, but it would be like this. So there's a 4-inch window for them to shoot here, and then I would hide this way and then back this way. So it's almost giving me a double layer to jump out of. So that's kind of how I put the army together. So the first one was Tau. He goes first. He does some movement. I made a bad. Again, not playing with the army, not thinking about it. I knew what I wanted to, but I wasn't really good, and I took the tail of one of the red bike squads straight out the back, and he shot at it. Good news is, because it don't hit too well, and because I would utilize also trees, so based on some minuses, I would use some trees and different things to give me some extra minuses. So I was able to be the minus, so he didn't actually kill the bikes, because one of the coolest things about the army is I won't ever play them custos, but I live and die on a 4-up, and when 4-ups are happening,
They're happening.
it's pretty fun. When they're missing, it sucks. And I kind of get into that. So it's funny, throughout the whole range of events, I made more 4-ups on my saves than probably, I'd say about average. The problem is if most of you know me, I don't like playing the dice game. So I get very disheartened. Like I literally one time wanted to just throw dice across the table. I actually switched dice for the first time ever in an event because rolling to hit and kill just was very frustrating when I have to have the dice go my way, and it just sucked. So kind of move on. So with the Tau, he kind of moved out. For my secondaries, every game I took the same 3, except I changed out 1 in the end for the last two matches, and I'll explain mine. But I took the Harlequin secondary. So one was deadly performance, and the way it works is you've got 4 different categories. As long as you choose 2 of those categories during your turn, you score 3 points. And the things are control and objective I didn't control, and have a Harlequin unit on it, be in their deployment zone,
Yep.
kill 2 things in shooting or kill 2 things in close combat.
Yep.
So with the first one being recover the relics, it is a hammer and anvil deployment. With a hammer and anvil deployment, I just basically hid. He did his turn, and he did normal towel. What he didn't want to do, but he castled up. With his castling, I actually said, all right, you're castled on this corner. I'm going to shift this way. And so I kind of fed a few things, a few bikes, a few of this, just to kind of give him a hindrance, but shifted my entire army this way. And so with me shifting the army over, Tao's fast, but the Quins are so much faster. I was able to start putting it in on this side, and he, turn 2, he did not recover it back. And so with him not recovering it back, I was able to just kind of keep shifting and going that way. With the second objective that I took, it was take your place. And so this one was fun all weekend because I did take it all weekend. Is after the objectives are put down, I put down one objective in my opponent's deployment area, anywhere, has to be wholly within, outside of 1 inch of another objective marker, and outside 6 inches from the table edge. And then they get to put one in the middle within 6, and one in my area within 6. So basically at the end of the day, there's 3 more objective markers placed on the table. So every time a judge would come by, he would always ask me, why do you have 8 objective markers on the table? Or why do you have 9 for doing a 6 mission? It's because 3 of them were the Harlequins. And the way it works is if I control 2 of those objective markers, I score 2 points at the end of my turn. If I control 3, I can score 4. So what I would basically do is in turn 1, I would always finish up going, oh, okay, cool. We're going to finish out. I'm going to take and score 2 on turn 2, and then I would score 4, 4, and 4. So basically I've scored a 14. The trick is because it's an objective marker, because sometimes it would overlap, you have to then figure out, well, which model is holding what on one objective. And so it really, for me, in my third match it comes up, but in me, it changes the game because I just added a whole new aspect to the game no one's used to playing. So they go, oh,
Yeah, 3 additional objectives.
which one is your
Yeah.
model on? And they're like, what do you mean? I can only hold 1. So how many's on this one? How many's on this one? Which allow me to then play into that to go, well, I'm going to make sure I get this one with this, and I'm going to get this one with this one. So it was tricky, but it was fun from that. And then my third one in that one is the psychic one for psychic one for Harlequins, and that basically starts on a 3, it progressively grows as I cast it. I have to be within 18 inches of a unit. I don't have to see them. On a 3, if it goes off, I basically Weaver avails them, but I cannot do the same unit. So I'd always just kind of choose the unit that I knew I was going to kill, so that it's off the table, and then I can choose the next and go from there. So in that match, I just basically ranged him and kind of bounced around to make sure that he was never able to be able to take and shoot me from that standpoint. And when we finished that one, I ended up with a 96 to a 47 on that one. It was a great game. It was a lot of learning. I think he actually did pretty well that weekend. I think it's 3-3 is what he finished out. So actually really good. Anything from the chat there?
No, just
Grant being Grant.
oh yeah, just Grant talking about the previous paint job, I believe.
Oh, yeah, everybody's still hung on that.
Yep.
It's funny, Jamie got told, what was it, last night? Yeah, no, Friday night.
Friday night.
You need to work on it a little bit.
Mhm.
We won't say who said it, but it's pretty funny. So we kind of get into the second game. The second game, I had Cody, and he was playing Krons with a Silent King, 2 of the, not Tesseract, it's not Nightbringer, but what are they called?
Oh, it's Satans, yeah.
Sorry, 2
Satans.
Oh, my brain is not working. It's okay.
Yeah.
Great. We played Tide of Conviction, which that one is a hold 1, hold 2.
Yep.
Or hold 2, hold 3.
Hold 2, hold 3.
It was a Dawn of War.
Oh no. He was talking about the extra
Secondaries.
the extra objective
Yeah.
secondary. He said it does mess with you.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It does. And so that one was an interesting one. I didn't go first. I kind of did the same thing. Very interesting for Cody. For my objective, he actually placed mine all the way in the far corner of the table.
Interesting.
Which means I had to throw a unit over there. I already have limited, but I have to chunk a unit if I want to score 4 points.
Yep.
And then because of the way it works, we really kind of built a hodgepodge of we were going to just kind of crash right here and really just decided on what was going to happen. So when we took it out, I took again the same 3 secondaries I'd always taken.
Yep.
I wasn't going to change from it because like you can't deny it. I mean, the Silent King's got one, but I was like, whatever. He worried more about Mirror of the Minds and some of the other psychic things I got to that one was kind of. So Cody kind of shifted his army this way. I shifted and transitioned that way. He brought the Silent King to set on one, and even though my original game plan going in was to ignore the Silent King and ignore the 2 stands, kill everything else, you can't beat me with 3 of them. Come on. Yeah. 100% cannot beat me. He gave me the Silent King, and I forgo them. So what I did is I said, all right, we're going to go for it. On the list, so everybody knows, on all the bikes, it was not haywires, it was shuriken cannons. So that was interesting for me, some of the changes I'll make there. But when I kind of went into Cody, I said, all right, we're just going to go for it. So I ended up sending 4 bikes, a Star Weaver, a Void Weaver, my Solitaire, and a Shadow Weaver.
Shadow Seer.
All into the Silent.
Woo. So there's a lot of
shooting
assets.
And charging.
Yeah. And some
like,
psychic.
And psychic, I mean, I literally was like, we're going after it. So didn't kill it in shooting. Got rid of both of the Minears. Got him down some. I think I got him down to 8.
Oh,
I was like, all right. Because, I mean, the Void Weavers do well.
Yeah, they do.
The Void Weavers hit him. I mean, I got some shots through. So it's like, all right. So we then decided to go into combat. And, I mean, this is turn 2 or turn 1.
Oh, wow.
I think.
Yeah.
Turn 1, I think. Maybe turn 2. It's all out there. And I'm just like, all right, here we go. And so when I hit it, kind of boom, 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 boom. Well, at that time, we did some things. We figured this out. He didn't have CP. It's all good. Me and him worked it out. It wasn't bad. At the end of the day, Silent King did explode. Well, when he rolls for his explosion on the Silent King, he actually gets 2d6 in the range, which turns into be 11 inches. And I was like, oh, boy. Well, out of that time, he then starts to get hot on everything. So he ended up killing in the explosion a Void Weaver, a Sky Weaver, 1 bike, the Solitaire, and the Shadow Seer.
Oh, my.
Those he rolled a 5 and a 6.
Wow.
And so we actually added it up. He lost 400 points of a Silent King. I lost 460 points in the explosion.
Of everything else.
So instead of a trade that would normally win me the win, he actually won in that trade.
Yeah.
Which was just crazy.
Well, he did and he didn't, actually, because the Necrons right now, a lot of people are playing it built around the Silent King. If you lose the Silent King that early in a game, although, yes, he won that trade, that's probably what ends up losing him the game.
It was, well, I lost assets. So what happens is we literally almost went to like we were playing a 1,000 point game because the rest of our models were only on this half of the table. I had a few things here. He had some Scarabs and I had some Bikes and we did this. And so he went in his next turn, he pulls the Satans out and he takes in, so that was one critical part. And then the second part is we made some choices. He fails an 8-inch charge. He fails at re-rolling it. He fails a 5-inch charge of the other Satan. So both Satans are sitting there. He makes the charge over here, but at the end of the day, I rolled my 4s. And it was just like he popped the Void Weaver. I popped out. I had more things. It's like, oh. So on my second turn, I was like, well, I've got enough casting for my other. Let me see if I can just do 3 more wounds and smites. And I'll try to kill Satan. So in turn 2, I was able to kill one of the Satans that he didn't make the charge with. And I kind of left the other one alone. He was out there in the middle of no man's land. Yeah. I was like, it'll do what it can do.
So it was a tough one.
So it was a tough one. We shifted around. But at the end of the day, it was a really good one. I really enjoyed the match because Cody was...
Joey said that's rough for both armies. He's not kidding. That is rough for both armies.
No, it is 100% rough. Me and him talked out because we had a really big decision to make. And we were like, do you or don't you on the one Satan that I killed? Yeah. And I said, you're better off. The math says you do this. And he goes... Yeah, the math says we do it, because it basically was, do I roll to save the Satan on possibly a 5? Or do I spend the 2 CP to interrupt with 6 combat destroyers?
Oh, yeah, the Scorpex.
To fight into 2 5-man Harlequin troops. It's like, well, the answer is that's 20-something attacks. And yeah, even at -1.
Yeah, I do that one.
So we did it. He goes, all right, make 8 saves, and I go, and I rolled 8 4-ups. And I'm like, well, that's the dice telling us we don't know what we're doing. But the math was, we did it right, we talked it out, it was interesting. It was one of those, like, crap. I'm like, I don't think that was wrong. It's, no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Those are the toughest ones. When you make a right decision, because everything tells you, all the data that you have in front of you tells you this is the right decision, but it just doesn't pan out. And that happens. Like sometimes that's just the game. We play a dice game.
So at the end of the day, we finished it out. We got it done. Like I said, I had a blast playing Cody because one, it was first time I got to see the Necrons. He showed me some of the different builds, and I'm like, I felt I was good into them. And the only reason was because for me, because the bikes can get hit, but everything's in the boat, so I take a lot of the fallen stars, a lot of the powers away, just because I'm so small
compact.
in the amount of the unit is.
Yeah, such a small footprint, really.
And so it was really good. But at the end of the day, that one finished. I ended up getting that one 88-48. It was a fun game, had a blast. So now I'm 2-0. I'm like, all right, we're going. And of course, I'm like, all right, I expected it because I know what's coming. I got prawns again. So yes. 100% great. The difference is this time I played Red, and he was on the Army Esports team, and it was conversion. The difference this time was he actually had the Silent King, he had the Nightbringer, and the other Satan, but instead of 6-man fighting units, he had 6-man destroyer units. He had a lot of shooting.
A lot of shooting.
And so it's like, okay. And once we got player place terrain, I did what I wanted to. And I made this nice diagonal, just gun line. Beautiful. And then I gave him the objectives to put that take your place down. And he's like, huh? He goes, oh, I like this. He likes strategic, being an Army Esports guy. He really likes the Army. He likes that middle game. He goes, oh, this is fun. So we played that piece out because that really made some changes, some stuff. He took the Silent King one. If he kills stuff, he gets that one.
Yep.
I took my same ones, Take Your Place, Deadly Performance, and the Psychic one. On that one, it came down, it was very critical. He got to go first. Of course, pre-game move, all those things. And I'm like, great. So turn one, I think he scored 10 points on secondaries.
Yeah.
10 or 12 points on secondaries. And I'm like, great. What am I going to do here? So I kicked out. I went and killed a unit of the Scarabs, killed the other unit of Scarabs. I got one of the destroyers down to 1. But he had taken and he had actually put the Silent King out. So I could have taken everything I had, jumped over the wall to shoot it, but it was in trees. And he looked at me and he goes, I was trying to get you. I said, nope.
Yep.
I'm not going to play that
Not
game.
falling into that trap.
And so we played it out. He went there. He made another big swing, picked up some stuff, and then so left one destroyer, and then I go to take, and on turn 3. Turn 3, game's still close. I've actually bounced past him, gotten his area, taken all the stuff off the backside. The Silent King has come up and done its work. In turn 2, he scored 3, 3, and 4. He scored 10 points for the Silent King secondaries in turn 2.
Oof.
By shooting 2 units and then killing 1 in combat. And I'm like, all right. So I swing around, and the Nightbringer's sitting there, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to mess with the Silent King. He's center of the table. I'm just going to play
around him.
The speed game now.
Yep.
Because I got past him, I did those, and I go up to the Nightbringer. And I cast my first Mirror of the Minds. And effect. All right, let me smite. Smite goes off. He fails it. And I roll a 3.
Okay. That's good news.
All right, 3 moves done.
Yeah. Just 6 more to go.
I have a unit of 5-man troops with 2 blasters, 2 Neuros, and a Shuriken. And I have a Void Weaver still to shoot at it. And I've got my character, Troop Master, to shoot at it. And then I've got those 5 guys, the Troop Master, and the Solitaire, all surrounding it to charge it.
So looking like 9 wounds in a single turn, he's good to go.
I did 1 wound during shooting.
Oh, then there it is. And there it is, folks.
Like, wow. And he was just like, that is a horrible turning phase. So I said, yes, it was. So struggled through it, fought through it, continued on. I mean, he played a great game. Again, for me, not being used to having the dice not go my way or go my way, it was very painful. So finished that one out. Red ended up pulling it out. He got his 100. I still scored 72. I was able to squeak out the points that I needed. Most of the time, I think going into this, me and Jamie talked, and I told him, I said, I think playing the way I want to play it, I can get about an 80 every game.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. And I got close to it. Sometimes I go high, sometimes I go low. So finished out day 1. I'm 2-1. Listen to Jamie gripe and go eating his wings in the back the whole time about his 1 and 2.
And let me tell you, the wings were delicious. Just in case anyone wanted to know, they were delicious.
He almost ate all 20. But he told me if you don't eat wings, was it wings and fries? And I ordered I ordered boneless wings and
Yeah.
tater tots just to spite him.
Absolute savage. Come on.
But-
Bone-in wings with waffle fries are the only way to go. And this guy's over here with, I'll take boneless wings and tater tots. Savage.
But it was good. We had a good one. So we get done with that. I'm not upset. The Army's doing kind of what I expected it to. I was like, we're going to day 2. We'll see what happens and have fun. I mean, again, I'm taking an Army that I've always wanted, but it's going to be played at every major event because as a company, we painted it, we've gotten it ready, and we want to be able to show it all.
So question for you.
Yeah.
So you finished day 1. What units were working well? What units weren't working well?
So what's really interesting is I hated the blast pistols. I think I did 1 damage with them out of 8 of them, shooting each round because I was like, oh. The bikes I loved, but the bikes was not being loved because of the way I play them, not because of the way people use them.
Yeah.
So I guess the other thing is for me, and this is something, I was the only Twilight player there.
Yep.
Most people take light.
Yep.
So they can advance and shoot the bikes. So Twilight, I can't advance and shoot anything. I just have to move normal and shoot, and I did. The way I look at that is because I lose that 1 turn, after round 1, everything is in range.
Yeah.
The table being so small, everybody knows it's that change. So I give up the ability to advance and shoot. Now, I was talking to some of the other ones, and they say, well, the pistols can advance and shoot. I get it, but for me, Twilight gives me an extra movement. It gives me 2 inches in consolidation, 2 inches of piling, so I have a 10-inch combat phase, which is fun in day 2, and I'll explain where I kind of mess with that. And I get 1 extra attack. So one of the things I had learned is if I charged a unit of, say, 10 guys, 10 one-room guys, or 5 Marines, with 3 boats, you don't interrupt. That's 15 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. You're making 3 F6. I'm picking up almost the unit with just 3 boats because they're hitting on 3s. Unlike Venom's on 4s. Now you get the 3s later on, but because I can just do it so early. So it's been pretty cool. I like the bikes. They did me well. To be honest, probably my favorite 2 were Solitaire is freaking amazing, and the Troop Master is just bonkers.
Awesome.
Because they'll go in and do a lot of things. But for day 1, it was the bikes. Because 2, 2, and 4, you have to respect them. You can't let them be. The Shuriken guns loaded out. That's why I had them. It actually did some work. Because I have a lot of Shuriken shots, and when they do well, it does well. The blasters were bad. So going into day 2, 2 and 1, and I ended up getting Ben. And of course, it's always fun because I get the armies that no one play. Like I'm going in like Sisters Crons. I'm ready for this, So I went Tau, Kron, and then I get Yanari. And all I can think of when I hear Yanari is here in Houston we have Mike.
Yep.
And all I hear is Yanari. Before Yanari got nerfed, it was it was the most broken, and apparently that's why Yanari gets nothing as we continue to go forward because it was 7th. Which I didn't play in 7th, but 7th they destroyed everything the way they were built. So I was like, all right, cool. So then he actually interesting fact, he plays at the Austin Dragon Slayer a lot, and so he was like, hey, and so kind of doing some talking there. It was fun to see that he had Yanari and he had the Income. Did I say that right?
Yep.
And let's just say that chick, after we got done with our game and him understanding some of the nuances of how to play with her, holy smoke, she's going to be a beast.
Grant, I love you to death, brother, but you're wrong.
What did he say?
He says boneless and waffle fries, best of both worlds.
Oh, no.
That's a negative Ghost Rider. That pattern is full.
So the Incarn, the biggest thing for what he told me, so he put some stuff in Deep Strike, and we kind of got everything laid out. We ended up playing Tear Down the Relics, which I'm not good at planting bombs, and it was one of those, I'm like, We deployed, I
got a question for anyone who is watching, if you're in the chat. What do you guys think of this mission if you've played it? Do you find the bombs distracting? Do you even pay attention to them? Do you bother? Because I've talked to a lot of people, and they all seem of the same mind that the extra added of trying to remember to do this action every turn, most people just don't. So I'm just curious what you guys might think.
Oh, that's a good question. Good question, for sure. He put the Incarn up, and he put a 5-man Ranger squad up, and then we got deployed, and we went to redeploy, and I go, so we already figured I'm going first. He's going to go look at this redeploy. And I really kind of felt bad because I was torn. He had 10 troops still sitting off the table, and I said, are they not deep strike? I thought you said these were all going to deep strike. And he goes, well, they're not on the table, and it's like, we've already rolled. And so it ended up burning the CP, which means that he couldn't use the 2 CP to redeploy, which means he left out a unit of Rangers and something out up front. But I didn't know really what to do. It's one of those where I'm like,
Yeah. What's the right call?
what's the right call? Because technically they're off the table. We figured this out. And so he's like, you know what, we'll play it this way. I'm like, all right, cool. At the end, he felt it did take and kind of mess him up a little bit. But we kind of talked it through and tried to do that. The biggest thing is trying to deal with the ink problem. So here's what she does. Because this is the thing. She starts out in layaway. And way she can show up is after a unit dies, she can show up within 1 inch of that unit.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. So during the game, turn 1, I'm trying to figure out how to not let this chick just show up in my backfield. But then I realized you can't come down turn 1 on deep strike. So we had to call the judge, and the judge said, yep, even layaway is considered reserves for deep strike and all that. So he was like, okay, so afterwards we kind of figured out how to use her even better. But still trying to deal with her because she's a beast. So, because of 16, 18 wounds, 4 of invul. When she comes in, she's got this orb of flaming. It was brutal because I'm having to figure out how to work around her so she doesn't end up. So there's some charges and stuff. He loaded up real heavy in the bottom corner and then light on the other corner. I took and I kind of spaced out, just trying to deny deep strike the way I like to play and going, I already got stuff that can come in. I'm going to try to keep that out. I got to go first in that game. What's Grant got?
He said when he plays it, he tries to get 2 down. So he tries to concentrate, make sure he gets 2 down just to jump on the primary and give his opponent something to worry about, which is smart. I mean, that's definitely the way you would want to play that. And I'm just interested, like I said, I was interested to see what other people think about it.
Oh, 2 bombs. 2 bombs.
2 bombs.
Yeah, nice. So we went out, I popped some bikes. He didn't realize bikes were not vehicles because he thought his haywire, because he had haywire, would work against the bikes and no, they're bikes.
No, they're bikes.
And so at the end of the day, we kind of boom, boom, boom. We hit. I hit. We ended up crashing in the middle. She came out. She did massive amounts of work, doing damage everywhere. What he was hoping is he was going to have an Archon kill a bike and then have her bounce back. Archon did not kill a bike. She stayed in the middle, right in the middle of everything I had. He did get my Troop Master. The Troop Master died a horrible death. 3 up invul, and he still died. It wasn't a lot went after him. I just rolled a lot of 1s and 2s, and I'm like, oh. But then I went into Psychic phase and Smite, all the mirrors, and the other one I have, all of them went off. So I ended up doing 8 mortal wounds.
Oh, wow.
In the Psychic phase too.
Yeah.
And so I was able to kill her. And when I killed her, I was like, ha. And then after I killed her, I was able to turn my focus, and I was able to kill the 10 Banshees.
Yep.
And then my Solitaire ran into his 10 Dire Avengers. I picked up.
Yeah.
And so what happened is at that point, the game just shifted. And that's where he felt if he had the troops on it, have another rebuttal.
Yeah.
He might have had a better chance.
Yeah, the ball started rolling, and it just once it got momentum, it was too far gone.
Yeah, it was way too far gone. And on that one, I still stayed with my 3 because he only had the 1 denier, which was her, and he had the farce 2 warlocks. They were all down, down, down. He kept them. He was doing them with some Nurgle party, doing about 4 up in goal, something like that. So when that one finished out, it was close. I ended up 96. He still got 70. I mean, it was still a good game. Like I said, it could have went other way based on that. And then we get into rounds. So now I'm 3-1. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, snap. I almost accomplished my goal, 4-2. You know, 4-2 with a brand new army that I want to play, get better with. I was pretty happy at this point. And ended up running into Grey Knights, and I'm like, oh, Grey Knights. Well, Jamie played Grey Knights for most of the year while I played Town. I'm like, all right, I know other shenanigans, and I know they can deny stuff like nobody's business. So I was like, So I ended up taking banners because we were doing the scouring. So I knew I'd be able to pop out on 2, pop up the banners. I knew he was playing Grey Knights. He was fearful of what I could pick up because of all the shirk and 2 damage weapons and stuff I had. Yep. So he was going to play and kind of bounce. Interesting fact is he took the Grey Knight secondary when he teleports and kills something. Yep. He gets so many points. Yep. He did the other one where you do it on Holy Grant or whatever on the psychic ability. Yep. Purifying Ritual. And he took banners. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. I said, sure, I hope to teleport and kill. He goes, well, I've maxed it out every game. And I just, like, okay, let's see what you can do, because I'm going to play and make sure you don't get it as much as I can. Another interesting fact that happened on this one is he had the chaplain.
Yes.
And the chaplain gave him the ability, or whatever gave him the ability, so he's got a ability, strategy, whatever, it's in the book, you can tell me wherever what it is. But basically, he gets to redeploy 3 units. I don't know if it's a Brotherhood or what it is. I forget what page you showed me.
Yeah,
it's a warlord trait or something.
Something.
Redeploy 3 units. So we get at the table, and I'm like, all right. And of course, I do my take your place. I do the deadly performance. And I do banners for this one. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I don't have to worry about that. He ended up taking and putting 3, when we did deep strikes, he put 3 of his dreadnoughts. He had 5. 4. He put 3 of them in deep strike.
Interesting.
I was like, oh, okay, well then I'm just going to kill those because I'm just going to not let them go down. He goes, well, no, at the beginning of the turn, once I figure out who goes first, I can redeploy 3 units. So if I need to, I just put them back on the table. And I'm like, whoa, you can't pull stuff from reserve.
No, yeah, it's the opposite. If it's on the table, he can put it in the
way
reserve.
He had read it, he thought he could do that.
Oh, no.
So I had to call the judge again. So it doesn't matter. I say this because we say it all the time at every event. Even when we run our event in October, every event, do not be afraid to call a judge because it's not worth any arguments. And I said, hey, you know what? We're going to counter deploy. That's fine. We'll call the judge and check.
Yeah.
Because, again, both of my opponents, when I had to call the judges and check, both of them responded from a standpoint going, well, did I do my other opponents wrong? And I said, I'm not saying you did or didn't. Let's see what the judge says. What we got from that?
Oh, yeah. Grant wanted to remind us to let people know that the change to banners and why it is possibly a little bit easier to achieve now.
Oh, 100%. Because I will discuss that in this game.
Yeah, because it does come into play.
It happened in this one. I had to call the judge.
Look at that. You picked that one up. He was going to get there.
Because we did have to call the judge again. So what I'm saying is don't be ever afraid to call the judge. Present what's going on. Have the rules out. Let them read it. Let them tell you their decision. And go with it. Because we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. But for me, when I looked at it, I was like, show it to me. I read it. I was like, it doesn't say anything about reserves. So the judge come over, and the judge's ruling was, you cannot affect anything that's not on the table. So therefore, you cannot pick those units to put them back down. And he looked at me and goes, well, I know I've already said it. What can I do? And I was like, oh, it's going to be 2 games where I feel bad. And I was like, here's what we're going to do. You're going to do that stratagem, stick them in the back behind the buildings. I said, you just don't get to put them up front.
That's fair.
Whether you go first or second. And he's like, you know what? I am fine with that because otherwise he probably was going to lose 1 or 2.
Oh,
because I would have played that game totally different. So
they may not even make it on the board.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying because I'll be all over it.
Yep.
So he goes first. He kind of bounces one guy, one dread up. It's the dread, of course, that has the I can teleport when you shoot me. And he tries to kill something and shooting. He does not kill anything. So therefore, he does not get teleport strike. And I'm like, all right, so I missed 1 turn. I go to shoot him. He bounces back. We both basically jumped up. We both basically scanned. We both basically, because it is a scour, we both basically threw up banners. He goes turn 2. He gets a little more aggressive. I come back out and hit that aspect. And so we kind of play in this game. He teleports again. When he teleports to strike me, the unit that could teleport to strike, his order of operation is he shot with his big knights first into my boat instead of shooting with those guys. And so then I spent 2 CP to make sure the 5-man unit could disembark 6 inches, making so he could not see me at all within those guys to shoot. Because he thought I was just going to put him out and just going to shoot him. So again, using the stratagems and the abilities to actually deny him to be able to get it. So that's 2 turns I've denied it.
And now he's got 2 less turns to try to score those points that he maxed out in every other game he played.
Yes. So I'm like, all right, we're doing good here. And then we just kind of hit in the middle. And so he had 2 big 10-man units of the guys that can move 12. And so I basically hit into those. He hit back. I hit. So I was just picking them up. He was picking up what he hit, but I was hitting back. I think the biggest mistake he made is he made some charges, and he went with a dread into some bites because he didn't want me to do some movement shenanigans. So this is a game where the movement shenanigans really got big. Because at one time, I hit a blob, and he had guys that were 20 inches over here, and he had guys that were 18 inches here. Well, when I hit them with my troops killed that unit. My Shadow Seer and my Troop Master still had to go. And they had charged. So what happens is they had to literally move 10 inches.
Oh, wow.
And grabbed a point and hid behind the tip of a Star Weaver.
Of course they did.
And so he couldn't shoot them. And he's like, and it scored me another 4 points would take their place because
Yeah.
they would be on the point. So the 10 inches of movement was huge because I can kill and then get to activate it.
Because they still activate, which allows you to do your
Consolidation.
and it has to go
And
towards the
these were
closest.
18, those
Yeah.
were 20, and I'm just like,
Bing, bang, boom.
and it was just like, wow. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd already planned it out in my head. I was like, all right, we're going to make sure we get this, we can kill. So the next thing is he charged me with the last 10-man unit into my troop master, and he had charged with the thing, and so he didn't want me to do the movement shenanigans to be able to get the bike to slide over onto the
Yeah.
objective and steal it because I'd already got on it. And so to the banners point, banners do not get removed until your command phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't at the end of movement steal it from you and then die off. I can't do it in charge. It's at the command phase. However, you do not score banners until the end of your command phase. So we had to verify it. Because I did end up jumping on it, and because I was there, it left in the command phase, and then you didn't get to score.
Yep. Because it's the order of operations.
Order of operations.
Yep.
So it's really huge because if you can take and they charge you, you have heroic interventions.
Yeah.
If you put people in the right characters and stuff in the right spot, you actually can take it and keep it from being done. So it's pretty cool. But what happened is he didn't want me to shenanigans with my bike onto the objective, so we went with the Dreadnought first to combat. And I'm like, cool. I said, now I'm going to spend 2 and interrupt. And I said, I'm going with my troop master. And he goes, okay. And I said, we're in round 3. My troop master has the Twilight Relic. I said, it's Twilight. So he's got 6 attacks, 7 for Twilight, 3 for that. It says 10 attacks hitting on 2s. And he's upgraded the always wounds on 2s. And I go, there is 10 minus 3 saves. And he goes, and he failed 8 of them.
Whew, 16 damage.
It's 2 damage each, so I picked up 8 of those guys. And he was like, well, I made that wrong. He failed morale, left 1 guy. Sad part is that 1 guy stayed at 1 room for 3 rounds. I could not kill him. It was bad. This is where the dice just failed me. It was bad.
Oh, boy.
But we had fun. Like I said, it was interesting interaction. Really cool as we was finishing up because his buddy came over and his buddy ended up playing Marshall in the last. He had bronze as well in that. When that game finished, it was 84
to 65.
to 65. Again, fun game. It was Patrick. I had a blast with it. Hopefully him and his buddy will be coming down to Houston.
Yep.
I talked to them about it, so hopefully they'll show up, which is really cool. And then we kind of go into the last game. And this one's going to be pretty straightforward and simple. So it was Miller. I played him. He had sisters. His funky list. I said, hey, I know the sisters. He said, okay, I know the Harlequin. So we kind of walked through how the game was going to go. And then we're like, all right, now let's play it out and kind of see how it goes. And it really came down to 1 or 2 things. So he took I hold my shrine, I get 3 points.
Defend the shrine.
And if he goes second, he scores 15.
Yes.
If I go second, he scores 12.
Correct.
And just because you minus the 3.
Yep.
And then he took the other one where he jumps out on him.
Sacred Ground.
And he's like, and he said, I'll end up with an 11 to something here for that one. And then I forget what the last one he took was. I forget what it was, but he ended up with like a 12 on there. I was like, and pretty much this is just it's one of those when you're playing someone that knows the armor really well, and we're in round 6, it's like, eh. And so we took, and then for me, I did take my place, the deadly performance. But because he had so many units, and they were all 8 and 5 men, 1 wound, and I'm like, oh, I think I could do this. I took Grind. So we ended up playing, of course, placed the objectives again. That was fun. And it really came down to, we go, all right, let's see who's going to win the game. And this is one of those few times where everybody goes, oh, is it first or... This was a first or second.
Yeah.
We rolled, I went second. And he goes, okay, because, and this is the only reason this would matter, it was abandoned sanctuaries.
Yep.
Which means there is no pre-game movement.
Yep.
And it was the one where I had an 18-inch piece of terrain that I could hide my entire army behind. And he goes, so my flamers cannot get in range, turn one to shoot you. And I go, nope. And so we started playing it, and it was one of those, he moved out, he did his thing, he got his points, I popped out with a few things, killed them, charged this, and it started, it's like we almost took what we had figured out, and it was just interesting because it just compensated itself right over. So at the end of the day, it was fun. I had a great time, and even on talking to that, I think he's got an event coming up in August.
Yep.
Iron Cage.
Iron Cage, yeah.
GT.
Yep,
So,
Iron Cage GT. It's definitely one to look into. Just Google it, and he's another guy does a really good job. Great events. Really nice guy. So if you get a chance to go, I would. It's definitely worth seeing.
So with that, that's the Army. I know we asked you on the other one, and I'll kind of do it here on this one. So from that standpoint, changes.
Yes.
So I hate the blast pistols, and everybody's going to think I'm crazy, but I have removed all of it. One, it's 6-inch range.
Yep.
Means my boats have to be within 6.
Yep.
I learned I don't like being within 6.
Nope.
So the Neuros I kept. Those are 12-inch. So it's 3 Shurikens and Neuros in each squad. So it's a 12-inch range on those. The other thing that I learned is all the bikes now have haywire.
Okay.
Because in the Crons matchup, in a Knights matchup, in a Sisters matchup, haywires actually do the work and allow me to stay at range.
Yep.
I still kept the Glavin because of Twilight, so I want to be able to fight in combat. So I have kept that. So the troops basically, the other piece is I'm picking up a 5th character.
Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting because I think people might start taking
As
this.
a matter of fact,
do you have it?
I think I have
Stick it right in front.
Let's see if we can stick it up front here for everyone to
Here,
see.
I'll take it, flip it back to that. Yeah. There you go. Death Jester. So the Death Jester's going in. What I do is I lose 1 purple bike, so I still have 7 bikes to be able to have the what's shurikens for the haywire. Still enough. I have to be a little bit more delicate. I can't just willy-nilly out to. I do have to use them. But the Death Jester does have some play. I played tests against Knights. Knights didn't do much, but everything else I'm going to see and being able to do it.
He's going to do work against infantry because that's what he's designed for.
He's going to do the work. The other thing is on the troops, because I did that, they all are going to still have their KISS. So I have the 1 CP stratagem to be able to do mortal wounds on 6 to wound. But there's only going to be 1 guy with that. One of the units will have a embrace. So if I do charges or something, and I may drop it again. This is the one I've been back and forth on. Because, again, CP is so intense.
Yeah.
I don't have 2 CP or an extra 1 CP to be using on those.
Yep.
Yes, I'd go down from having 15 attacks that are strength 4 minus 2 damage to where it's now 20 attacks that are strength 3 minus 1 damage. But I'm used to that with witches.
Yep.
Where I think their benefit is late game from the boats. That's the way I want to play them. I don't want them to be the front of the thing. What I really want to do is the Death Jester, the Troop Master, and the Solitaire are really my big killers.
Yep.
From that standpoint. I am back and forth on the Suit of Knives versus giving the Warlord trait to the extra Warlord trait to the Troop Master. So I'm starting with 3 CP. But that's kind of the thing. At the end of the day, if I had to take one, the Solitaire is freaking bonkers. At a 3-up invul and what he brings to the table.
It's crazy. Yeah. He's very good. Very good character.
He's 130 points, but I don't care. It's just awesome what he can take and do.
Yeah.
And so, had fun. LSO was a blast.
Yeah.
We'll look at doing it again.
Yep.
We may even look and try to carpool another person in the car. Like we had a blast. Cool
It was a
thing
good
is,
time.
We got to get mats for the event.
Yep.
So we now have all the mats for our event in October, so
Yep.
we don't have to worry about that anymore. We clarified with Russia's Lasers, so we'll have all our terrain for the event as well. So we are pretty much ready to rock for October when
Yep.
that comes up. Any questions from anybody in the chat still watching? We'll leave it for a few seconds to see if anything pops up. Thoughts on the 2 armies or any questions from that? We got a lot of things going on. So one, probably in the next week or so, we might be able to show you 1 trophy.
Yes. Yes.
We've got the lasering. So my brother is doing some different things with him and his wife, with crickets and a few other things to get some patterns done for us. Jamie's getting
I'm
the
in the
trophies
process
painted.
of getting the trophies painted up.
We've actually, just so you know, we hadn't asked, but the guy reached out to me, so we've got somebody kind of sponsoring one of the awards as well. And
Yep.
We've got the other awards going. So it's pretty exciting the way it's coming together. What we got from there?
Favorite matches? That's a really good question. Favorite matches? You go first. Who was your favorite opponent?
My favorite one?
Yep.
Oof, that's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah.
I liked all of them, but if I had to say my favorite one, it was my loss against Red. Red was very clear.
Yep.
Me and him both played it strategically. even when I had taken the losses, he knew what the Army could do, and he knew that I would be able to take and make plays because he was watching me do it. And he's like, "You're really making me have to think harder than I want to with a limited amount of resources." One, if I had Haywire, I think I can win that game. Two, if you ever took Harlequins back to what they were before you nerfed them, and got Crons up to where they were, I can win that game.
Yeah.
Because I can have a lot more play with it.
Right.
But to me, I really did enjoy the game. It was a loss, but I really enjoyed it just for the simple fact that when I would look at him going, "What are you going to do?" He literally is going, okay. And when you really force that and force someone that gives it back to you, and he's sitting there going, "You got this," and I go, "I know, hold on, let me think this out," and I get done and he goes, "Yeah," like he's literally watching the dice going, "Is this going to work? Oh my gosh, he's put everything in the right thing." So for me, it was that game. For you?
For me, it was also one of my losses. Robert with his guard. Robert Moreland. He helps run the Dallas Open, which is another event that I've been to, and really great guy. Really put me through my paces. I learned so much in that game. I learned what the true capabilities of my army were, where I was strong, where I was weak, and how, bad decision making can really, really put you in a bind. But we played really good game. It was a really good opponent. I was able to figure a lot of things out, and I think without that loss, I don't go 3-0 on day 2 and finish at 4-2. So yeah, I mean, it really was a great game.
Cool.
All right, I think we got one more. Let's see what we got here.
No problem.
Which pairings did we enjoy? Yeah, like for me, it was the guard. I mean, guard are really good, and he had a very interesting army. He did have lots of tanks, but he also had lots of infantry, so he had a lot of board presence, and the flyers do take up a lot of space because of their maneuverability. They can put you in a position, and it almost forces you to want to shoot at them, and really, honestly, you really should ignore them. And I didn't do that in the first turn, mostly because there wasn't anything else I could shoot at. But then also being unsuccessful on top of that just made it very, very difficult.
No.
But it was a good matchup because once again, I was very fast, but I couldn't get to certain parts of the board because there wasn't any space for me to place my models because he positioned his units so well.
So first thing was red. Matchups were Crons. I got to play 2 Crons. Tau I know, Grey Knights I know. I enjoyed those. The Yanari was interesting. But I also think that's one of those that, just like Eldar, other thing out of that book's kind of interesting. Harlequin's interesting.
Yep.
And then Sisters are Sisters. For me, and Jamie and his wife Andrea play Sisters, so kind of dealing with that. But for me, it was Crons, just because Crons are the...
Yeah, they're the boogeyman right now. I mean,
so it's like, how do I deal into those, and then what can I change to be able to deal with them going forward? And I think I've made the right changes. And after playing those, a lot of people don't like the Void Weavers, but for that matchup, I think they work. I think Haywire works for that matchup. I think I've got enough to deal with any kind of full machinery list.
Yep.
But also have enough low end, just amount of dice to chunk at you if I don't need the machine. So the Crons was fun. It was, like I said, it was good to see them out in force because, I mean, and they have not been.
No, I mean, considering they were the second army out of the box, they weren't even really good when they first came out. No. And then they lost all the core, which messed them up even further. They tried to give them back core, and that helped, but there was these secondaries. The secondary changes, which really made Necrons a valuable army on the table.
And the other piece that a lot of them are doing. So, and I'll leave with this because I do say the Crons. 1, cap the Silent King, and do not say hurting, cap him at 4 or 3 per phase. So he's either got to do it 4 turns or he's got to do it 5 turns. I don't care which one, but he can only cap score for that.
Yep.
The second one is all-inclusive. You cannot do 6-inch pregame move plus be objective secure.
Yep, that's too much.
So you can be objective secure, no pregame move. I think pregame move make it all-inclusive.
Yep. And
that's the one you can kind of hurt and leave the objective secure. I think at that point there's still some play. Me and Jamie have been back on this. He thinks that one's that. I sometimes, depending on how it turns out and what they might choose, I still maybe say objective secure also can be an all-inclusive, just because I see error of where you go to 3 max Scarab squads to make sure you're still scoring those, and you can't scarf it.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I say that it's all inclusive versus giving it, because you can get some other benefits, and when you get a free benefit, I mean, it's just like anything, it's a free benefit.
It's a free benefit.
With that, again, LSO review, armor review, what we had. A great time. Definitely look forward. If I'm not mistaken, not letting anything out of the bag, because I think he said, but I think they've got it booked next year around the same time. So I look forward to setting that on my calendar to be able to take it and go.
Yeah, they said that at the event. They're back again next year. It'll be right around the same time frame. Same place, same bat time. And like I said, it really was a great event. I think it's one of the largest ones that they've run so far this year, excluding LVO, obviously. And I think a lot of that has to do with the service member and all the appreciation that they do for that. It was a really, really great event. And I was really glad to be a part of it.
And then the only thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to have fun with this, I did get one award.
Oh, yeah? That's right.
Yeah. It was the best Eldar super faction. So that was pretty cool.
That's true.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Finished 5-1, was able to get that. I finished 10th at it, so it was really good. So, but again, from a team standpoint, 50% or better, 5-1, 4-2, 4-2, and 3-3 is freaking amazing. So greatly appreciate everybody that showed up for the team.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a very good showing for us. We played very, very well. It was just a good time had by all.
And with that, I'm going to take and we're going to use our new little video to kind of close this out and see how it works. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.